Good day, people. Today I'm going to show you everything I know about drawing the eye, how I study, and my thought process whenever I'm drawing. So I recently tried to do a refresher on how to draw the eye, and I'm just going to explain what I know. The eye is made up of the eyeball, which is a sphere, our eyelid, which you could use a leaf to represent. It's made up of the upper and lower eyelid. It's made up of the iris, which is the colored part of the eye, and it's made up of the pupil, which is a hole in the eye. And the pupil dilates and contracts based on the intensity of the light or the lack of light in the environment, so that it can absorb light, so that you can see. And another thing you need to notice about this stuff is form. So for the eyeball, for instance, now you have to think of it as a ball, right? You have to think of it as a ball with shadow and light. So if we take a reference image, for instance, now you look at this Will Smith's eye, you can see that it's not completely white, right? It's not completely white. It has form, which means that if we are taking a look at his eye, we are breaking down his eye, you're seeing that his eyes isn't exactly white. There is shadow over there, and the shadow is coming about due to the eyelid. Due to, first of all, that the ball is a 3D object and it has form, it has shadow, and it has a main color, a mid-tone, and it's interacting with light, right, which is showing its shape, its length, its width, and its depth. Because of the presence of the eyelash and eyelid over the eye, you're seeing that there's a bit of shadow around his eyes. And that shadow, if his eyes were like blue or like or a lighter color or a lighter value, you're going to see that the shadow, the upper eyelid and the eyelash are going to be, they are going to be having a cast shadow over his eye like this, and it's going to give it form, right? It's going to make it so whenever you're drawing the eye, don't just put white over here and be done with it. You have to actually apply that shadow, right? That shadow and light all over it, so that it's going to look good, it's going to look better, and it's going to look more solid. Whenever you are looking at it from different angles, these shapes change. So if we are looking at the ball, right, one thing you should also try to notice that you could use horizontal and vertical lines to sort of like place the location of the iris, right, so that you figure out where you're going to place the eye. You don't always draw like this when you're drawing. You don't always draw the ball of the eye. But I personally kind of apply this technique when I'm drawing the eye. Like if I were to draw an eye in a different angle, for instance in an angle like this, I use this ball. I think of, because I am trying to think of it, not just because these techniques are going to help you to draw the eye better. So I don't just think of the eye like this, like I don't just start drawing. I try to like establish like a structure, a basic structure, the structure that I have in my head, like the visualization of the skull, of the human skull. I try to have that in my head, and I then approach drawing the eye. So if I'm drawing this eye now, for instance, in 3/4 angle like this, I usually use these balls or sphere to like kind of separate the eyes. These balls are going to represent the orbit, the sockets, the eye sockets. So I have my eyeball over here, right? I have my eyeball over here, and what I do is that it just makes things a lot more easier for me. I put my iris over here. Now usually the iris is like the iris is like, will I say 50%? 50% of the entire eyeball, about 50% of the entire eyeball, and its shape changes based on the movement of the eyeball. So it could become, you know, kind of angular or become an oval depending on how you're moving the eyeball from side to side. So when I'm working on this, I have this, and then I then put my eyelid. The eyelid is not just a flat plane, right? It has layers, right? It's not just a flat plane. You can think of it like a, you know, a Pac-Man that's, you know, opening its mouth and closing it, like some kind of mechanical device that opens and closes. So I do something like this. The spacing is not accurate, but I'm just trying to show you, like with a brief sketch, how I just approach the eye. And because this nose structure is, you know, is kind of blocking it, we're not going to see the entire, like, eyes. We're not going to see the entire eyes. By the way, the spacing is off because I didn't take my time to work on it, but I just hope you kind of get what I'm saying. So the main thing you have to look at is the eyeball, the eyelids, the upper and lower eyelids. The upper eyelid is what moves the most in, like, whenever, like, the eyelid moves, and it affects the shape of the eye. Like if the eyeball is moving, like, to the left, you're going to see the shape of the eyelid. It's going to change the general shape of the eyelid. If it's moving to the right, it's going to change the general shape of the eyelid. And of course, we have the eyelashes. We have the eyelashes and the eyebrows. The eyelashes are basically like protection for the eye, and one way I usually, you know, that one technique that helps me whenever I'm drawing the eyelashes is, let's say I have my eyeball here, and then I have my eye like this. Yeah. From the center here, I just, like, try to look at angles, try to create angles like this. Hope you're seeing what I'm doing. Try to create angles like this, and from there I just use that to draw my eyelashes. The eyelashes should not be done individually. You should put them in clumps, in chunks. You should use, like, this bent triangle chunks to group them. You shouldn't, like, make them look like a freaking paramecium or a bug. So I use this technique. I have my eye like this, and then I draw different angles, and it just helps me, like, easily place the angles for the eyelashes. Another thing I forgot to mention is the cornea. So if we look at the eye from the side view, yeah, we have our iris, and then we have our cornea. The cornea just pokes out a little bit like this. So this is the cornea. So the cornea is like this glassy, like contact lens like looking thing on our eye, and it's what gives it that glossy look. Let's say we're deconstructing this now, right? The eyeball, the iris, and the pupil, right? And then we'll also have the cornea. This is the cornea. The iris is kind of like this. It's like a bowl. It has this kind of this sort of shape. I don't know. And then we have the pupil that sits here like this, right? And then the cornea is like this. This is the cornea. This is where the cornea is. And so there's just a little protrusion at the eye area. So when light hits this area, the area that gets dark on the cornea is quite different from the area that gets dark on the iris. So whilst the iris is shaped like this, the cornea is shaped like this. It's kind of like the opposite. It has the opposite shape. So they are like this. This is the iris and this is the cornea. So whilst they are shaped like this, when light hits this area, this particular area has more light, but for the iris, because it's curved, this area is where the light hits. This part of the eye is where the light hits, while this part of the eye is where the shadow will be, right? So the shadow is going to come like this. We're going to have our pupil here like this. So the shadow is going to come like this because the light is going to hit this direction, right? But for the cornea, because it's shaped like this and it's protruding forward and it has like a peak, that's where the highest point of like the highlight is going to be there. And that's what we see in an eye like this, right? That's what we see in an eye like this. You see that this part of her eye is quite brighter than this part of the eye, and it's simply because of it's very subtle, but it kind of explains why, like, whenever you're looking at an eye, you see that that highlight, that shiny eyes is always at the darkest point of the eye. It's always at the darkest point of the eye. That reflection, that highest light is always at the darkest point of the eye, while you see that the brightest point of the eye doesn't have the highlights. Meanwhile, like if you look at a ball, there's a gradation, right? In a ball, there's a gradation from the darkest to the lightest, from the lightest to the point of occlusion where there's no light at all. So I just hope this explains it though. I hope this explains it. I'm going to talk about this more, but it's just important to know when you're understanding like the basic structure. And different eyes have different shape, but if you are going to, like, if you want to study something like this, just have the shape of the leaf. That shape of the leaf, imagine a ball and then a leaf just over a ball, right? Like a leaf over a ball. It's not on the ball like this. It's not on the ball like this, right? It's on the ball like this, right? So it's resting on the ball. I didn't draw that well. Yeah, you could use a leaf. Another shape you could use is we could, like, so the eyes now, for instance, the eye could be divided into like 3 lines, like the drawing of the eye into 3 lines. Instead of drawing your eye like this, right, you could just draw it into 3 lines. So we have to 1, 2, 3, right? And then 1, 2, shake, shake, 1, 2, shake, shake, 1, 2, shake, shake. So just have these 3 shapes. Like if you look at the eyes, you could just break down any eye, almost any eye, to be honest. You see that the bottom side is usually like, that's the bottom lid is usually curved, but you know, you could just break it into 2 planes, right? So you have 1, 2, 3, right? Then put the tear duct area, and then you have 1, 2, and then you can then round it out. And of course, there are different types of eyes. You know, there's the upturned eye, there's the round eye, there's downturned eye. There are monolids, like people with epicantic folds, and you know, there are hooded eyes, there are deep set eyes, there are protruding eyes. There are different types of eyes, but you could just use this simple 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2 to, you know, get the planes of the eye and you've drawn the eyelid, and yeah, are good for business. Easy way to study this is you could just get different ball shape. You could draw different ball shapes. And then you could place the eyes, right? Let me just use a different color. You could place the eyes in different angles. So you could have one, like it could be a leaf, or you could do that style I just talked about, where we have 1, 2. I'll do both. Yeah, so we could have 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2. Right, that's one area. Remember, the iris could be like this, right? It's at this bottom is just showing like this. Yeah, then you can have the side view of the leaf. Like, eyes are not in the side view. Like, people still make this mistake still today. Like, when they are looking at the eye from the side view, they draw a full eye. And to be honest, I do make these mistakes, not anymore, but I did make this mistake very recently. You shouldn't be drawing a full eye for the side view. It's just wrong. So just for the side view, you just imagine a side view of that leaf, right? Of that leaf, or that plane that we talked about. So the eyelid, and then it's like this because we have our cornea and our iris. Yeah, we have our cornea and our iris. So this is kind of like a good study. The angle of the eye, like it changes, and same thing with the eyeballs. So you could do these exercises like this. And yeah, the bottom eyelid shape is going to pop out a bit more in areas like this. Yeah, so you could just do simple exercises like this to get yourself familiarized with the shape of the eyeball and whatever, and just get yourself familiarized with this basic structure. It's going to be very helpful. And in terms of like measurements or structure, and like you can use this, and then the next thing I would suggest you to try is try to understand the structure of the human skull. I say it a lot of times in all my videos, but understanding the human skull is going to make things so much more easier. Like the way you visualize a drawing, right? Even if you don't get the exact resemblance of the character, or how the character looks, because of your understanding of the skull, because of how you are able to understand where each facial feature is supposed to be placed, right? Whenever you are making a mistake, you can easily correct yourself, or you can your art will not always be perfect, but you can know where like your art is looking off and why your art is looking off. Because if you understand how a skull looks, you're going to be able to easily achieve symmetry, whether you're drawing the eyes, nose, or mouth, or like anybody's head. Alright, so like understanding the skull is easy, so it is going to really help with drawing any facial feature at all. So if we're looking at, let's say we're trying to achieve this eye, right? Because we understand the skull, we can imagine that her face is facing like this sort of angle, right? You can imagine that her face is facing this angle, and the eyes sort of like this. I'm not saying this is exactly how her skull looks, but I'm just saying like understanding the basics of her skull is going to help you to like easily place this. You understand that, okay, like I know that her eyes is going to be here. I know her other eyes is going to be here, right? And you see how it has easily helped with the spacing of the eyes, right? And you know, you can also place other facial features like easily on her face because of just this like understanding of the skull. So I would advise, like, if you're studying the eyes as well, try like chipping in a little bit of skull study, right? A little bit of skull study to, you know, it's going to, like, if you are starting out like from like scratch, it's going to really help with like placing the eyes. So as we know, the one easy way that I usually use to space out the eye, like if it's in the front view, is that I usually put the space of, let's say we have this ball that is going to serve for the space, our head or our skull, for instance, right? Because I kind of know what's going on, you could just use 3 boxes. Yeah, you could just use 3 boxes. You just use 3 boxes, 1, 2, 3, to get out an even spacing of the eye. Or you could use 3 circles. I use circles more often than not, but you could just use 3 boxes because that's where, you know, the eye is going to be placed, and it's going to be much more easier. Our brow line, and then the nose. And then the mouth. Right. So you can see how this has helped me with the, I mean, it's not looking exactly, I'm not going for exact, like exact look, but you can see how this has like helped me, like understanding basic structure of the face has helped me to like simply position the eye. One thing I'm going to like really passionately harp on is that, like, if you want to learn the eye, the face of the human face, right, just learn the Andrew Loomis structure, basic and secondary structure of the face. Like learn that guideline in different angles. I'm not perfect at it, I'm still learning it. I try to improve on it every day. Like whenever I try to like approach a portrait, I try to improve on it. But learning the Andrew Loomis basic structure of the human head, like those planes, like when you're drawing like a face, you draw it with planes. Learning that is going to be extremely helpful because it's going to help you place every single facial feature. It's going to help you figure it out, and you know those lines are going to help you whenever you're drawing or approaching any portrait. So, but we're talking about the eye here, and we're going to focus on that. I have a video on that, you can check it out. So like we spread out the eye, like, you know, we just imagine like an extra socket is here, and even when we are like drawing it in like different angles, we still use that technique to sort of help us like position like those features. And with time, this is how, you know, a person discovers his own art style. So you learn the basics, you know, learn the foundation, and with time you are able to like make the foundations easier for you, like figure out like shortcuts or techniques of how you want to express those fundamentals in your own way, and that's how you find your own art style. Like that's one way you find your own art style. So You separate it by creating 3 circles, or you could use boxes, and the Androlomis method is going to help with the placement of the eye. Like, this is all you need to get good at drawing the eye. This is all you need to get, like, the eyebrow. Men have fuller eyebrows, right? Men have fuller eyebrows. There's always a peak, but the sides of the eyebrow usually get less hair. But like women's eyebrow are usually they have less eyebrow. Like, look at this. I think these are ladies. Their eyebrow are usually have much more shape, and they usually have much more peak, either because of makeup, or they shaved it off and then I applied I don't know what they call it. It's like a pencil, but they apply it on their eyebrow, like, to give it shape. The women in my church, they use it a lot when they come for service. So yeah, that's just the thing about eyebrows. Are like relatively simple. They are not that complex. They just have like this shape and you're good. Like, just have the shape and you're good. Like, with eyebrow on any angle, it's not that hard. What's usually more complex is the eyes. Like, for me till today, I still have like problems with drawing eyes in some different angles. I still have to I do mess up sometimes. But like, doing studies is what's going to help. So whenever you discover that, okay, I'm not really that good at drawing a face from a warm eye view, right? You could then gather different like live references of the face in that particular angle that you're struggling with, and then you could get like the Loomis face structure in that angle, and then you could just do several studies on that angle. Let's say if it's the eyes, if it's the nose, if it's the mouth, in that angle that you're having problems with, you just attack it, and that's how you get better. Like, that's how you grow as an artist, right? You learn the fundamentals. At least you have a basic understanding of the fundamentals, and then along your journey, let's say, like, as I'm a comic book artist now, like, I have serious problems with perspective, right? And let's say I have a problem with 1 point perspective now. I do have problems with perspective, like, just putting it out there, to be honest. I do a lot of guesswork whenever I'm doing my perspective, but that's just to the side. But anyways, like, perspective is one of the art fundamentals. It's one of the art basics, whatever. When I have a problem with like 1 point perspective, 2 point perspective, 3 point perspective, and let's say I don't feel really strong, like, or I want to improve or upgrade my knowledge or understanding of that particular fundamental, what I do is that I go back and take a refresher, and then I improve my understanding of that particular art fundamental enough for me to be able to execute, let's say, whatever page I want to do, or okay. So, like, art is in stages, right? There are steps, there are levels. Just like in every field, there are levels, right? Let's say, and just like with that, the art fundamentals is in stages. You don't need to be at level 10. You don't need to be at level 10 for you to be qualified to be to be a good artist, right? You don't need to be at level 10 to be a good artist. All you simply need, you may need to just be at, let's say, level 3. Level 3 is like all you need. Like, let's say for whatever it is you want to do, you might want to be a concept artist, you might want to be whatever. Of course, you may need to be like at a higher level to for your status, and the more works, like the more clientele you have. But to create art, like just create art, you may just need to be at a certain level. And level 3 might be, okay, maybe you don't have 100% understanding of like the human art fundamental, but maybe you are like at level 3, right? And level 3 may be, okay, I understand a bit of structure of the face, I understand a bit of structure of the human body, but I don't know like a lot of it, but I understand like basic structure, right? but I'm not that good at perspective, or I'm not that good at colors, or I'm not that good at values, right? But at level 3, you may have what you need to create good art. But as time goes on, the more art you create, you may begin to, the deficiencies in your art's understanding and knowledge may start to become more apparent, right? What you're lacking in art becomes more, it begins to show, right? It begins to show, especially to yourself, and you may just feel a bit insecure about your art. And that is when you go back and take like courses, you go back and take you go back to YouTube and refresh your knowledge, or build new pillars that are going to elevate your knowledge on that particular area or aspect of art. It could be human anatomy, it could be composition, it could be perspective, it could be value, color, form, whatever it is. And that is how you level up your art. You go from one level to another. I mean, let's say you've done that. Let's say you upgrade your composition, and then you're like, okay, I'm good for this time. And in 3 months time, you then discover another deficiency and see that, oh, I'm not really that good with colors. And then you go back and then upgrade, level up your understanding of colors. So there are different skills for each of the art fundamentals. So you could be like a 70% in color, a 50% in anatomy, a 10% in perspective, a 5% in composition, all those kind of things. But the more art you do, the better you become, and you begin to see where you're lacking. And then that's why you have to do studies. That's why you see great artists, they always go back to do art studies. You're wondering why like this amazing artist is doing, like, he's drawing different eyes, or he's drawing a muscle, or he's drawing the skull. Why is he always drawing the skull? It's because he's trying to upgrade his level of understanding, or like refresh his like understanding. Maybe he feels like, I'm losing grasp of a certain aspect of art I'm not feeling comfortable with. Then he goes back, and then either he establishes more pillars to strengthen this particular level, or add more cement or concrete or whatever, so that it doesn't collapse. It never collapses, but that's just a brief segue. But anyways, going back to the eyes, what I'm going to tell you is get understanding of the skull, and have this basic structure like the sclera or eyeball, the eyelids, the iris, the pupil. Once you know how they work, right, it's not going to be confusing for you. You're going to understand, like, why what is placed where, and it's simple as that.